A very, very warm welcome to everybody this afternoon. With all the public holidays, people have taken advantage and managed to break away, get out of the city, get away from the grind. And certainly this talks to a very, very buoyant domestic tourism sector. And talking further to that, that opens the door to my introduction to my guest speaker today. Chris Anagnostellis, our guest speaker today, is an old friend. Chris is the CEO of an African anthology, currently looking after a portfolio of about 20, I'm going to call them iconic, Chris might be more humble and say less so, but beautiful boutique hotels and very luxurious private lodges around the country and actually cross-border. Chris looks after a portfolio that stretches into Mozambique, Zambia, Botswana, and then of course a very established footprint here in South Africa. A couple of examples of which: Chobe River Lodge in Botswana, David Livingstone Safari Lodge and Spa up in Zambia, and here in South Africa, Kapama. All very iconic, well-established, reputable and trustworthy facilities. Chris has extensive experience. He's a leader in luxury tourism and hospitality, and certainly in a very, very good position, a favorable position to talk to us about a number of key issues today. High-end travel, trends in global tourism, and branded destinations. And it puts him in a position today to talk to us a bit about tourism and how it's informing economic growth. Our topic specifically talking to the sector. Tourism as a sector, it's beyond just a sector, it's not actually a catalyst to economic growth. And underpinning that, some key theories, one of which I'm sure Chris will touch on today, one of which is the theory of the multiplier effect. Effectively, every R1 spent in tourism gets distributed into the rest of the economy, whether that be growth of jobs, small business development, and development in areas beyond just tourism. And we see infrastructure development, we see retail growth, we see travel nodes, and other commercial property impact. So without further ado, it's my great privilege to invite Chris to talk to tourism as a national economic catalyst.
Thank you, everybody, and good afternoon, and thank you for having me. Greg, you've never spoken so nicely about me, so I appreciate the kind words, and without further ado, I'll get started. But thank you for joining me. It's a privilege to be here, and it's an honor to speak to you all. And I hope what I have to say today will resonate with you to a certain degree. So jumping straight into it, as Greg said about the big picture of South Africa being a national economic engine, it's gone all pear-shaped, sorry. Okay, a couple of stats. Between 24 and 25, you can see a material, significant improvement in tourism to South Africa. And there's a number of factors that contribute to that, which we'll get into just now. But just for your own knowledge, our international arrivals for 25 grew 17% to 10.5 million people from 2024. Our GDP of 9% is massive as a GDP contribution to the total economy of South Africa. And it actually overtook a number of other sectors, including mining and agriculture, which is actually quite material. But I think more importantly, the jobs that it supports directly is 1.9 million, which is up from 1.8 million in 2024. And of course, the total contribution of 660 billion rands. So this is a seriously overlooked market. It is a seriously overlooked opportunity that a lot of people don't perhaps understand. And it's still early days where a lot of advantage can be taken of this absolute brilliant market, which is also quite fun, by the way. So after telling you about the stats for GDP and for foreign exchange and employment, etc., you can see the multiplier effect that we were talking about that Greg alluded to earlier. It's not just the direct jobs of 1.9 million that are created. It's the spin-off and the knock-on effect that supports a multitude of sectors within the economy. So the knock-on effect we talk about there, you can see it's transport and aviation, retail and craft, food and beverage, real estate and hospitality. Now I focus specifically in the real estate and hospitality. So we see the advantage that we have with tourism, with our lodges and hotels, and the revenue we generate, especially from overseas, but also it's underpinned by the domestic market, which I will get to shortly. But to give you an idea, the one job that you create in tourism can support up to 10 people, okay, just directly. And that's not even the knock-on effect, it's the families and the households. So just diverging a bit, or digressing is the right word. If I've got 100 people employed in one of my lodges, it supports at least 500 people directly, their families, their education, and their well-being and welfare. Expanding on that, the multiplier effect. You look at airports, ground transfers, charter flights, car hire. Charter flights is emerging at a rate of knots. There's another great opportunity there. And of course, your curio markets, the arts and crafts, the wine, the fashion, the food. We are becoming a big food destination in South Africa. The whole lot of things, the lodges and hotels that we spoke about. So the knock-on effect is massive. It's not just the direct 500 people, 400 people, let's say, that we employ, but it's massive all the way through. And it supports, well, it speaks to itself. A 9% GDP speaks for itself. I don't need to elaborate on that. So we talk about the domestic tourism. And with domestic tourism, what we found, which was really interesting, is that the domestic market supports the international market. And when I say that, what I mean is that you all go to the coast, you all go to game reserves, you all go to leisure lifestyle properties, you maybe go to Dullstroom, you maybe go to Hermanus, wherever you might go as a South African. You are paying a lower rate than you would be paying if you're an international traveler. And even though we're a rand-based commodity, the international traveler pays a lot more. And we need that revenue. We need that foreign revenue, the pounds, the dollars, the euros, whatever it might be, we want that money. But at the same time, we have to respect the domestic market. And to that end, we have different rates. So I'm sure you've heard of things like bush breaks, empty beds, these last-minute operators that put out specials to the South African market. They underpin our market. They are critical. You guys, as leisure travelers, domestic travelers, are critical to our tourism model that we have in South Africa. Because if there's a war in, well, there is one in the Middle East, or if there's one going on in Russia, or there's an economic catastrophe somewhere around the world, we can rely on our South Africans. And what we do is we discount our rates to fill up our beds. A smart person will fill up their beds and make sure that they've got the revenue that they need and the occupancy that they need to be sustainable, because everything's about sustainability. So you'll see, for example, and I'll give you a direct example, one of our lodges, Kapalma Private Game Reserve in the Kruger National Park, 4 5-star lodges which are iconic. Your cheapest rate there is about 15,000 rands a person a night sharing. But if you go into our last minute rates, you're going to pay half of that. So we discount rates by up to 50% for the domestic market. Very, very important to understand that. And like it says here, and I like this, it's the critical balance, and I'll read it to you. Hotels and lodges must balance genuine affordability with world-class experience, and properties that treat affordability as a design principle, not a constraint, will fill their beds year-round. And those that don't are struggling. So if you've got a huge bank account and you don't care, keep your rate high, and don't worry whether your bed is filled or not. That's not our model. We are to do business. So that's your domestic backbone of occupancy, which leads us straight through to the international tourism and the high-value growth driver. We had record arrivals in 2025, which was unparalleled, which was absolutely fantastic as well. Why we like the international tourism is because of its hard currency, the high spend, and the numbers are increasing year on year. So it's a brilliant sector to be in at the moment in South Africa, because we are favored by overseas people. We are favored as a destination. And ironically enough, despite our domestic once they were here per person, which is significant when you multiply it to the 10 million people that visited our shores. The growth grew 17% and the average stay was longer. So historically, before COVID, 2019, pre-COVID, we were getting an average of about 7 to 8 days in our country. It's now increased to about 11 nights, which is significant growth. And for the same period of 24 to 25, we grew 14%. What I like to say is that this hard currency that they bring, the rand, the dollar, and the pound, remember in South Africa we charge rands. So we convert that hard currency. They're converting their hard currency to get rands to be able to spend it in South Africa, which gives us that hard currency that we need. It's a massive contributor to our economy. So they choose us, as I said, because of the advantage of the foreign exchange. They get more bang for their buck, bringing in £1, €1, $1, so they can spend a lot more money here. And it's so funny to listen to them, and it's great. Because the guys will come and go, oh, a glass of wine, it's only $40. Gee whiz, or $100, that's nothing. We pay 2 times more. And you know, when you go overseas and you want to go get a cappuccino, you're paying between €3 and €5. And I would like fall over because that's my jar of Rick coffee. It's crazy. So, it's wonderful. Bring your dollars, bring your pounds, bring your euros. It's fantastic. We welcome you all. And you can spend as much as you want with us as well because we're so cheap. And again, what's nice is we're seeing our international markets grow. So despite a downturn in airlift, which I'm going to get to just now, our actual source markets are showing growth, which means that we're getting more foreigners, which brings us more revenue, which is what we want at the end of the day. And because we're a long-haul destination, or we're deemed a long-haul destination, people that are coming to South Africa don't only come to South Africa. It's expensive for them to get here. The air tickets are not cheap. So while they're here, whilst they might spend 11 days in South Africa, they're extending their trip. They're staying in Zimbabwe, Botswana, perhaps Mozambique, maybe Zambia, Vic Falls. Doesn't matter where they're going, the Okavango Delta. So they're extending their trip. What that means is that they're spending more money in Southern Africa, which is good for the region. It's good for us as a whole. And more importantly, because we're a hub, most people route through South Africa to get to these other destinations. So it lends itself to saying we're a pretty safe bet that the people are going to come to us and bring their money, and whilst they're here, spend more time in South Africa before they go to their onward destination. So we've seen growth in Australia, we've seen growth in the UK, and despite America and the problems that we have, we see it being stable. So it's not growing, but it hasn't declined, we are stable. So it speaks to people looking for safer destinations despite world turmoil. Okay. So post-COVID, I love this topic because it's very subjective and it's subject to interpretation. But what we have noticed, especially being in the leisure markets that we are with tourism, so we do a bit of business and I'll get to that as well. But in the leisure market, what we have noticed pre-COVID, we were all hammering the same tune about, we've got a spa, we've got a gym, we've got a 500 cotton thread count Egyptian linen, and you must come to us because our rooms are 100 square meters, and hammering that point. And of course, we'll give you a better rate and we'll start trading on our rates, and it's a race to the bottom. So you might have occupancy, but you don't have your profitability, and you don't have the numbers that you promised your shareholders or yourself if you own the product. What happened during COVID? I think a lot of people caught a wake up in terms of lifestyle and lifestyle choices and the choices you make in terms of leisure and time with the family and time together and a complete new perspective. You've seen this immigration that's going on. People are flooding up into the small towns. People are leaving Johannesburg. Some are coming back because it's too expensive in Cape Town now, but there's a whole change. There's a whole shift. That shift is global. It's not only here in South Africa. So what's happening? People are looking for more experiential, curated experiences, more than just what's my bang for my buck? How much time can I spend here, and what's it going to cost me? It's more, what am I going to do while I'm here, and how can I contribute, and what do I understand from my experience that I'm going to get out of this, where I can go back and explain it to everybody else. So it becomes an experiential, curated, personalized experience that people are looking for. It's not just going to a 5-star hotel, going to the spa and swimming by the pool. It's actually experiential, and you can elaborate on that by saying, especially taking a game lodge as an example, people don't want to just know that they're going on a game drive to see the big five. They want to know the story behind the success of this safari experience that they're going on, the sustainability of the wildlife, the sustainability of our animals, and the staff, the people, and the communities that are supported by these game lodges. So it's quite a long chain reaction. So what we noticed, having a look here, you can see the before and the after. It's all there. In the old days, it was transactional, packages, product, price-led competition, experiences, hospitality, blah, blah, blah. It's out the window. Today, people want curated experiences. They want a personalized journey. They want a feel-good story. They want to understand, especially they're going to a game lodge or any leisure property, what is the value that we are giving here? Where is my money going? What is it contributing to? Let me feel good. And let me go back and tell the story about that. So it's all about sustainability. And of course, how do they contribute to that whole story? What we have to do as properties, which is quite interesting, because it's all great to say, well, this is the story and this is what's happening, but how do we pivot? How do we cater to that? How do we change our mindset pre-COVID to today? Because it's quite an elaborate story. You can't just go and put a lick of paint on your room and say, I've changed. You can't say, I've got a spa and I've changed. You can't. You've got to go with the story now. It's about the story. Your refurbishment in your head is actually the story you're going to tell people about what you do and how you do it. So, to give you a proper practical example, our lodges, for example. I have a lodge in the Kruger, the nearest community. We contribute money to them. We train the staff from that community. We do upliftment projects for the community. We go to the school and we educate. We donate. We bring overseas people. We explain to them. We take them on tours to show them what we're doing. So you're putting your money where your mouth is by actually giving a curated experience to somebody. It's not just about the game drive and the big five and the range with these epaulets. It's about everything from the front to the back, the experience. And I think that's important. Wine tours as well. Same story. Where does the wine come from? How many communities does it support? What is the upliftment there? So I don't want to just focus on game lodges because that's my main game. It's the leisure industry and tourism as a whole where we can contribute. And I hope you read all that because I haven't. So good luck. Okay. So just a couple of pictures there. And then, of course, wildlife tourism, which is my absolute passion. And it is the anchor asset, in my opinion, and the differentiator for us in South Africa with opportunities that exist. Game lodges, lifestyle, opportunity experiences, leisure. Because business is business, and we'll get to that as well. What's exciting is that South Africa alone in 24 had a $3 billion contribution to the economy. And we reckon that by 2030, as you can see, it's going to be $5 billion. As an industry, Southern Africa is $13 billion, and we reckon it'll hit $30 billion by 2033. Now, these are serious numbers. It's a lot of money, and you've got to do a lot of work to get that money. What we've noticed is that the Kruger Park, being an anchor product, leveraged a lot of people to be able to open up lodges in other areas. And they're also sustainable and successful. So it's almost a carbon copy. So you all know the Kruger National Park. Most of you have probably heard of the Madikwe. You've heard of the Pilanesberg. You've heard of the Eastern Cape. The Eastern Cape has got a massive surge of game lodges. And therein lies a massive opportunity at the periphery of Kruger. All these opportunities exist purely because of the Kruger National Park. And of course, the success of your Botswana products. And what people are looking for now that it's experiential, it's not mass tourism like East Africa. It's more your lower density of numbers with a higher impact, which is great because you're going to get a person spending much more money, having the personalized, curated experience than the mass tourism that you're experiencing around the world, which is in fact a global pandemic at the moment with the numbers of people flocking to places because of the cheap rate, I suppose. So the conservation-linked tourism is also very important. What we do, as I see there, Botswana, we restrict our guests. The numbers are very low. So I've got a lodge in the Okavango Delta. We've only got 20 people that visit that lodge, but they're going to pay $1,500 a night for that privilege and exclusivity. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to highlight that you want that curated experience, you're going to pay for it. So we can upsell the experience, which is very important because then that's how you make more money and you become more sustainable. What we've noticed as well is that the more that we do conservation-related efforts like solar plants, which brings down your energy footprint, your carbon footprint, so this translates to people supporting you more because they can see that you not only exploiting, in inverted commas, the opportunity of wildlife, but you're also contributing back to conservation. Right, and why we think South Africa is so great and that we win on wildlife, as we say. I think we are one of the few countries in the world that have got what we have, where you can actually put your money where your mouth is and show the big five. And it's a permanent thing if you look after it. That's why conservation is so important for us. And not only that, if you invest into these models of sustainability, your asset appreciates in value. Okay, it's not a cost. It's an asset creation. It's a sustainable asset creation which grows in wealth. Your capital growth increases considerably over the years with a sustainable asset. And of course, because we're the gateway to most places, like I said earlier, we capture the full value, the whole value chain, from beginning to end. And I think that's very important, something to consider. And then moving to urban tourism and business travel, I'm going to just focus on one thing called bleisure. And bleisure is the guest that comes for business and then looks for a bit of leisure. So he's going to come here to South Africa. He's going to spend 3 or 4 days in conferences, in Sandton, in Cape Town, doesn't matter where it is, but he needs a break. So he extends his stay. And that's becoming a very, very big trend where people want to get away and enjoy themselves. So they do just that. They spend 2 or 3 days and then they hop off to the Kruger, maybe to Dahlstrom to fish if they like fishing. It doesn't matter what it is, but that's what leisure tourism is. People that are looking for a bit more than just going to a conference and then going back home again. And then, of course, infrastructure and accessibility is a massive, massive thing. I'm going to touch on it very briefly. We've seen a decline in our airlift, which is a problem. We need to increase our airlift and we'll see more guests coming. So while there's less flights, they are flying fuller. So it's not that there's a decline in tourists. They're still coming, but we need more flights to come to increase the level of people coming to our country. And that is your gateway to everything, by the way. Without airlift, we can't get people here. They're not going to come with the ship. So we've got to make sure that they increase their flights. All right, so investment, hotel repositioning, the refurbishment and repositioning. I think what's very important, the opportunities that exist are in your hotels that have got the potential to increase their rates and to achieve more money through the rebranding that I spoke to earlier, which is not your paint, it's how you reposition the product. You'll increase your revenue per average room. That's what RevPAR means. It sounds fancy, it's not. And then branded residences is your mixed usage, your Airbnbs, your non-Sun International branded type product, but more the guys that are offering a accommodation, but they're not branded, like one of your iconic brands. They're massive and they're gaining traction along the way. And then, of course, your highest margin segment, which is lodges, which I spoke about. That's just a summary over there, which you don't need to elaborate on. And then your private charter, which is absolutely critical, which I've personally invested in a air charter company to increase your lift to the iconic destinations, taking out the inconvenience of airports and transport and waiting for hours for a flight or a connecting flight. Air charter is a massive player in the market that's really gaining traction here. So when people land at OR Tambo, for example, I put them in an aeroplane and I take them straight to the lodge. They don't even have to take another flight to another town, from the town to get to the lodge. That's what we talk about with private charter aviation. So in closing, guys, because I've been given a time limit and my good friend Greg I can talk all day if you want. Just clap and I will. The closing message is, South Africa offers one of the most diverse and investable tourism ecosystems on the planet, where natural assets, currency advantage, and improving infrastructure converge to create an outsized opportunity. Now, on that note, and very quickly, I'd just like to mention 2 products that are coming to the fore with high street auctions. And I know both of them, so I can speak openly about them. The one is the Kruger Adventure Lodge, which sits near Nimby Gate, which is very close to the Kruger. It's not a big property, but it's got massive potential in terms of game drives into the Kruger National Park and the activities in the area around there. So it's in a very good state of repair, and it's only got about 8 or 9 rooms, a couple of rondavels, but its position, its location is unique in terms of being close to the Kruger. So it's a wonderful opportunity to explore and to think about. It's got game viewing vehicles that are licensed to go into Kruger as well, which is massive. And I can speak from experience because down the road, I've got my own lodge on the Sabi River, which brings me to the next product that is called Summerfields, which is magnificent. Okay, it's 2 properties up from my property. I've got a little lodge called Lions Rock on the Sabi River. In comparison, Summerfields is iconic. It is a very, very well-known and established brand in South Africa, supported both domestically and internationally. It is beautiful on the Sabi River, close to the Kruger. It's also got game views, and it's got a myriad of activities in the area where people love to go and play, from quad biking, whitewater rafting, tubing. I don't know what else there is. There's a whole lot of stuff you can do. But it's a lovely product, and I've actually been there. It's got beautiful food. The food is great. The restaurant's great. The accommodation, the rooms are magnificent. So 2 things to look out for, and I hope that my spiel about tourism and how it is growing and gaining such traction, and it's so untapped, guys, very untapped. It is marvelous. So if there's any questions, you want to ask me anything later, you're welcome to. I hope that you all enjoyed my little spiel. Greg, I needed another 20 minutes, but it's fine. I'm gonna leave you with that thought, and I hope that you guys have a wonderful day further. Thank you very much.